Afternoon, everybody, and happy Friday to you all. Lots to get into. We've been quiet this week and last week, but yeah, we're going to talk about transfers. We're going to touch on England very briefly, of course, all the action from last weekend in the Premier League. But today I'm joined by Sam, as always. I'll go to you, mate. How are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. How are you? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Friday feeling. Can't complain, really, can we? I think I'm still a bit tired from bank holiday, but Chris is back with us again. Chris, good to have you back on the panel, mate. How's things?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me back. Season's getting going already, and we're starting to see some good stories coming. And transfer window. Wow, well, that was a good transfer window, wasn't it? Now.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about some of it, to be honest. But yeah, we'll start in England. Obviously, unfortunately, it's a bit of a unfortunate event as well as a fortunate one. Good win, 4-0, but no room for racism. Unfortunately, it's still happening. Let's just hope UEFA and FIFA sort of get together and start really setting a precedence, because it's just going to continue. And these 2 free match bans and 50 pence fines are just not doing anything. But big shout out to the boys last night for a big victory and for keeping strong. But let's get the ball rolling, because there's so much to go into, like Chris just touched on, a big transfer window. What we'll do is we'll touch on the transfers as we go into the games. And unfortunately, Sam, the first one is this. I
knew it was coming as well.
I don't really have too much to say on this one, mate. Bit of an utter shambles, but I'll go to you anyway. Where do you think it sort of went wrong? I don't think any of us were confident, but why was it so bad for Arsenal? And then I'll get Chris's outside perspective.
I don't know where to start, mate. I really don't. I think let's be real. The Xhaka red card didn't help, but we know that's Xhaka all over. They were dominating us anyway. We weren't expecting to get anything out of this. But the thing that I'm more frustrated about is, seeing the likes of some of the team selections, like Kolasinac back in there, and it seemed like they were playing him as like a kind of like a centre back. And just the all round performance from the boys. They didn't really do much, man. I think Odegaard was poor. I think they were all quite poor, to be honest with you. I didn't think there was enough fight. And yeah, it's just, again, same old shit, embarrassing. And I don't have any positives to take away from that. I think the pressure now is really starting to mount on Arteta. I think it's really important now, the next few games, especially that Norwich game. If he loses that, then I really think it's time to start, putting his head on the chopping block.
Yeah, I agree with the lineup. Like, Kolasinac was such an odd decision, and Lokonga being taken out of the midfield, bad timing, because he'd started looking really well. And obviously we know what happened with Xhaka, sort of, as you can see there, disappointing the fans. He's really got to be careful, because he's just got the new contract and fans are already on his back every minute of the day. So I don't know what a way back is for him from this. But Chris, I'll ask you, mate, from an outside perspective, what did you make of this result? Do you think it was just perhaps the fact that we had a lot of absences? Because obviously there was a lot of, for example, Lacazette was only just returning to sort of full fitness. Aubameyang had only just come back in, and we were missing obviously the likes of Gabriel and Ben White. But do you think it was perhaps just wrong timing, or we got what we deserved?
I wouldn't say you got what you deserved. I think, touching on, City first, I think, it just shows City's pedigree, their depth in their squad, the creative options up top. City didn't get out of first gear. And I think that actually really shows the sort of depth between the two sides at the moment. I think my feelings of Arsenal is they just seem to don't have an identity at the moment. If you look at their, touch on the transfer window, you look at their transfer policy, it's very much bringing youngsters into the club, 22-year-old, 23-year-olds that will be, given their potential, they will become really, really good and potentially one or two maybe world class in the next 3, 4, 5 years. But this is Arsenal Football Club we're talking about. This is a team that should be competing for, top 4 places, Champions League spots, be in the top tier of European, at the top table of European football. So I think very much it almost seems to be a disconnection between Edu and the board, Arteta and the coaching staff, and the fans of what is this club trying to be? Is it trying to be almost a Dortmund where you bring the youngsters in, you train them up, you sell them for big money onto like some Real Madrid, Barcelona, whatnot, or actually trying to be competitive? So I just think it just feels so disconnected. And even I'm trying to get my head around. And I think, yourselves being Arsenal fans, this almost was a sort of transfer window of opportunity to clear out Deadwood. There was talk about, personally, I don't rate Lacazette, and there was talk about maybe him getting him back to France or stuff like that. It almost felt like, Xhaka had a great European championships, but at club form, he's just so erratic. There was, the Roma deal would have put £15 million in your pocket and potentially got, quite an erratic player off the books, and you would have invested elsewhere. So, I think it's just this lost identity of Arsenal, which is it's just confusing. I do feel sorry for the fans in that regards.
Yeah, very good point. Sam, touching on that, what do you sort of making it in terms of the transfer window? We'll go very brief because there was only one sort of update that's come in since, which is Tomiyasu. I'm guessing you don't know about him as much as what I don't really. I sort of know what I've seen in terms of clips on social media. But do you agree there? Do you think it has been a wasted window?
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think, as Chris said, what I don't can't get my head around is the fact is that, all right, there was an opportunity to get a lot of these players out of the books, but we seem to have gone for a couple of loan opportunities as well. Like Nelson's, why are we loaning him out? He's not getting a game. Bellerin, for some reason, he seems to have fallen off the last couple of years. He doesn't seem like he wants to be there. All right, okay, he's good with the fans. He's he's one of our own, as they say. But he's not getting in. So what's the point of these loans opportunities? Why don't we just
this is another thing. We haven't actually made any money. We've just we've just done a temporary fix. And this time next year, we're going to be having the exact same problem all over again. And if the players don't work out where they go, it's just going to be a smaller fee. So we're actually going to be in perhaps bigger trouble. Who knows? But yeah, I agree with that.
Dan, can I jump in on Tomiyasu? Because he is he's a Serie A boy, and I tell you what,
of course,
Joining from Bologna, to be honest, I think it's a good signing for Arsenal. Was it 17 million? I think was the fee in the end. It's a good move. Tottenham were interested in, from what my understanding is, and decided to go down a different path in the end, and then became Emerson Royal, which I know we'll touch on later. But no, Tomiyasu is he's 22-year-old. He can play centre back, he can play right back. He's was a staple part of Bologna's defence. So I think it's a good move for Arsenal. He's young, 22 years old, and very, very versatile. And I think actually he's one for the future. Like I said earlier, it's this whole buying youngsters and seeing how they grow. I think definitely Tomiyasu is one to watch. I think.
Where does he predominantly play?
Right
back. He actually is a right back?
You're thinking of the video I've seen, Sam, aren't you?
Yeah, it's confused me. It's really confused me.
He's very, very good. He can play centre back or right back, so he's very, very versatile in that regards. I think with the fact that Bellerin's gone, I think you will probably see him more as a right back.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not the he's not the sort of player that is like a Carl Walker or in that regards, the Roman right back. He's very, very defensive minded. So hopefully we'll shore up that right side.
Hopefully so. And it'll be interesting to see how he works with Pepe, because Pepe's crying out of a certain type of person behind him. So who knows? Hopefully that brings him out. Hopefully we'll see the ball rolling. But we'll move on because I'm depressed just talking about it. I think this is quite a predicted result. Villa and Brentford. Not much to talk about in terms of transfer, really, is there? I think a lot of their business was done at sort of earlier on. A couple of weeks back, which we touched on. But Brentford have started off well. I mean, considering the result, they had us, they beat us, and I think they'll take a point here. Chris, I'll go to you, mate. Do you think, obviously, Buendia got on the score sheet? They've replaced Grealish with all of him, Ings, and Bailey. So, I think the money's well spent. But taking 4 points, taking into account what they've put into the team, do you think they can actually perhaps still be up there and give the big contenders a run for their money? Because they haven't started off as well as what people thought. I know that in our competition, a lot of people predicted Villa for the top 6 by the end of the month because they didn't really have massive games. They lost to Watford in the first game of the season. But do you think this system can work, or do you think it's perhaps too much going on in one first 11?
No, I think the system could definitely work. I think Danny Ings is an incredible buy. I think Danny Ings has always been talked about in regards to the big clubs. I think it was a few years ago we always had the debate about or even recently, Man United, buying a striker, Arsenal buying a striker. Why is no one just going for Danny Ings, a proven Premier League goal scorer? And that debate always just comes around. And I think, season on season, Danny Ings proves himself as a proven goal scorer. So I think that sorts it out. The creative side, replacing Jack Grealish was always going to be hard. And I think Aston Villa have done the best thing, some really good business, and probably what the best they could do to bring in like Ben Buendia. Leon Bailey's a fantastic player in Bundesliga for Leverkusen, but I know he's been struggling with injuries, so we're not going to see the sort of the shining light of him just yet. But of course, it's that old tale of time to gel, time to kind of fit the system of the way Dean Smith needs to wants them to play. So yeah, I think Aston Villa probably won't challenge for the top six is the way I'm seeing it. But I think, if they can get a good run together, they can cause some teams some trouble. Remember this, this is the team that put 7 past Liverpool last season.
Yeah.
Still got Ollie Watkins to mention as well. I mean, yeah, they're not exactly they're not in trouble in terms of their choices up top. But moving on to Everton, this is a very interesting transfer window for me. I think with them, I don't really know what's gone on, considering what happened last summer under Ancelotti and the choices they've had. But 2-0, I think they'll be pleased with their start. They've 3 games unbeaten, but I'm just going to put it out there. I think some of the business is questionable. Andros Townsend, I didn't really get it. Damari Gray, okay, he's still a bit young. I kind of understand that one. He's a good player to have as an option and maybe up top. And then there was obviously Begovic, and I'm trying to think of others. There's a lot of free transfers there. Which
Salomon Rondon.
Yeah, and now Salomon Rondon. Chris, I'm going to go to you. What did you make of the introduction of him? Because I'm a bit baffled. I think it was West Brom he was playing for quite a while back.
He's in West Brom, Newcastle. Then he's gone to China, and now he's back. So to be honest, I think he's just a Benitez favourite. Managers have their sort of players that they like to bring around. And I think considering Dominic Calvert-Lewin's going to be the Everton's #1 striker. Richarlison can play through the middle if you need. Rondon is a good second, third choice, solid player to have around.
Yeah. Do you think it's a case of maybe like the fact that Benitez should have maybe perhaps allowed a player to depart this summer so funds are available? Because from what I can see, I think they're just skint because all these free transfers, he's obviously just signing where he can. And obviously, when you look at teams like Barcelona, you don't want to end up in that sort of position where you're having to get rid of your best players quickly and sharply. But do you think they've perhaps just not needed any additions to the team and they're just taking what they can, or do you think it is a financial problem?
I think it's a mix of things, really. I think it's maybe they did splurge a bit last season with Ancelotti. Gave Ancelotti a bigger checkbook. They brought Benitez in. Benitez is very, very good at working with tight budgets, so it kind of supports the sort of Benitez ethos. But yeah, maybe they didn't get the outgoings they needed. Moise Kean has left Everton, but he's gone on, I think, a 2-year loan to Juventus, where it's just pushes the payments back to another time. So I just think Everton's have got enough quality, and under Benitez, I think they'll work under the radar. They're definitely a team that again could knock on the door of the top 6, 7, and you're kind of used to it as well with this Everton team.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see if Dominic Calvert-Lewin can repeat the season he had last year, and he's already on his way, I know, but and hopefully can start knocking on that England door. Yeah,
very good shout with that, because he had it. I was gutted for him in Euros. Obviously, he was there, but he just wasn't used. And I mean, we did well. We got all the way to the final. But he's not a bad person to come on. He leaps and bounds. But yeah, I agree. I think Everton have got enough. They've done well to keep what they've got, because when Ancelotti left, there was a lot of talk of people going with him. So to keep people like Rodriguez, Richarlison that you just mentioned, who knows where they can end up. Let's move on, because, like I said, there's still quite a bit to get to as we go into the games. Newcastle 2, Southampton 2. Sam, any surprises with this, mate?
Not really, to be honest with you. I think Southampton are just ticking along as well, after the loss of Ings and stuff like that. But Newcastle, again, they're always that nearly team, aren't they? I don't dislike Newcastle. I think they're just, they need a couple of players to bring in. But yeah, again, I think we all could have predicted this was probably going to be a draw.
Yeah, I think these are the two teams that I would perhaps be doubtful of this season. Armstrong looks like a good acquisition. Newcastle, I don't know what to make of Newcastle. I don't think Willock's going to be enough. Wilson, I'm pretty sure I've just read that he's got an injury. And like when you take players like him out, I don't know what there is to come in. I don't know how faithful they are of Joelinton anymore. I'm not sure. I think they could be exactly where they've been for the past few seasons, just sort of scaping by. Obviously, they finished like 11th, I think it was last year, but I think they might be a little bit more down there. Norwich and Leicester. Leicester, another win. Vardy on the score sheet again. I'm a bit gutted because I've got a bet on, which I think I told you about, Sam, that Pepe's going to outscore Vardy, which is not going to happen. But you know, you got to be faithful in your team and your players. Norwich 3 defeats in a row now. Good. Chris, what do you think it is going to be a case of, look, this is not getting any better? They've had quite a tough run of games. Leicester, Liverpool, City, first 3 games out the way, you know, the top 3 of the top 6. What do you think? Do you think there's any way back for them? Obviously, they got rid of Buendia, who we just touched on, replaced with Rashikar, I think his name is. But what do you make of them? Do you think it is just going to carry on the way it started?
To be honest, it's very hard to make judgment of a team like Norwich when, like you said, they've just paid Liverpool, Man City, and Leicester. Those 3 teams you'd expect to be in the top 4 or 5 at the end of the season. So, to be honest, looking at Norwich's fixtures, I have to double check who they got next, but I think for Norwich, season starts. Arsenal. There you go, 6 points at the bottom already. Again, like on the flip side, Arsenal need to look at that game of 3 points. 3 points has to happen. But I think from Norwich perspective, given Arsenal's pedigree as a big team in the league, you'd expect you probably would expect Norwich to lose that. But who knows? But I think from Norwich's perspective, they should be looking at that Watford game coming up as a sort of kickstart for the season.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, they need to get points where they can, especially with the start. I mean, the fact that we're still bottom of the league and they've had such a terrible start speaks volumes, doesn't it? I mean, the fact we're bottom and they've been this bad, I don't know. It makes me angry. But West Ham Palace, a bit more of an interesting one. West Ham had a pretty good. I think they had besides maybe the striker situation, because obviously Antonio, we don't know how much he's got in his legs. If he gets injured, there's a problem there. They haven't got much of strikers, but I think they did all right with the signing of Vlasic. 2-2. So, Chris, I'll go to you. I'm going to get your thoughts on, because I know we spoke off air. I want to get your thoughts on Vlasic, who they've just had come in. From what I know, he's a good ideal opportunity rather than Lingard. I think he plays in the same area. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I think he's like an attacking mid.
Yeah, he plays attacking mid, and from my perspective, as I'm wearing a red and black AC Milan shirt, it hurts because Vlasic was one of the top signings that Milan were looking at this summer. Unfortunately, it just came down to a matter of price. Serie A's budget right now is absolutely dried up, so clubs can't really spend that much. So yeah, when CSK Moscow got an offer of I think 35 million for Vlasic, they're always going to take that really. But no, he's an exciting such exciting. What, 24? I think he is. Maybe I'll have to double check that.
That's what I read.
24-year-old. He Scotland fans will remember him because he scored against them in the Euros. It is a solid, it's a solid alternative to Lingard. I think maybe West Ham were getting outpriced on Lingard. Man United were being non-committal. We can touch on it when we come to it. But I think Lingard might regret not going to West Ham on a permanent basis. But from alternative perspective, Vlasic, this West Ham team is getting quite exciting. Vlasic, Benrahma, you've got Antonio at the top of that.
Is Lanzini still there?
Yeah, Lanzini, Fornals, even Jared Bowen's stepping up as well. So, and this is almost like David, I think I touched on it last time I was on the pod. David Moyes is getting a team in his image and is showing everyone again that sort of Everton team that we remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, very. It is dangerous and worrying when you even Fornals, he's good, but he's not the best of the bunch, So their world's their oyster. They've got that.
And then they got the holding pivot of Souček and Rice. Which...
While we're on that, I forgot to mention him when I was talking about England, but big shout out to Declan Rice. Hope you enjoyed that drink, buddy. But yeah, not that he's going to be watching this. I'm acting like he's going to be watching this podcast. But
Friend of the pod.
Yeah, cheers, Declan.
loved it.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
Yeah, I loved that reaction to racism. I think that's brilliant. And while we're talking on Palace, Sam, I'll go to you. Obviously, Benteke, we all know what he's sort of not capable of anymore. He's reaching the age now where he hasn't got it in his locker anymore. They've brought in is it pronounced Edouard? Chris, I'm going to go to you because you're the one that's good with pronunciation. Is it pronounced?
Yeah, Usman Edouard. Yeah,
that's the one. Okay, yeah. So Arsenal actually were. I think last season Arsenal fans were crying out for him. But do you think this is what Vieira perhaps needs in that team? Just someone different up top? Because they do lack goals on occasion. I just remember Townsend sort of leading them astray, but now he's left. Benteke running out of steam. What do you think it is that Palace perhaps need to get them going? Because they're just a boring team now, aren't they? They don't really get anywhere. They just sort of sit in the middle of the league.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, I think that's the one word that you could describe Palace, and it's pretty much just boring. Let's be real. You know, without your likes of your Zahas and your sparks there. Benteke scores the odd goal, doesn't he, every now and then? But they ain't really got anything going. Do they not have the young lad? Is it Eze?
Oh yeah, of course. And they brought him in last season. Was it? Yeah, I think it was last season. Eze, yeah.
He does.
Because I kept getting the pronunciation. I remember that because I kept calling his name wrong.
Like Esse, you kept calling him or something like that. But shock. But yeah, no, he looks a talent, and there's definitely a player there. But again, I mean, I think they're around the same benchmark as your Newcastles as well, and your Southamptons at the moment. I don't think they're getting that investment, and they're going to struggle. I'm not worried about them, put it that way.
I think jury's out on Vieira as a manager as well. This is it's a big, to be in the Premier League, quite a big job. I think managing in the Premier League is a challenge in itself. His record isn't great. He didn't really set the world alight in Nice. He managed at New York Red Bulls for a bit as well over in the States. Again, Palace does feel like a big step when, especially like you touched on, they don't really get that sort of level of investment that other top teams in the Premier League make. So I personally, I'd be surprised if Vieira is still manager of Palace at the end of the season, potentially.
Yeah, they're quite ruthless, aren't they, as well? They seem to
they had to get rid of half their squad as well. Hodgson was followed by like a lot of their team because all their contracts are running out and they just can't afford to keep them going. Like they've got quite an aged team as well. When you look at the back four, a lot of them are in their 30s, late 20s. So
is it Cahill?
I'm not sure I think he might still be there.
No, he was released and he's gone to Bournemouth. Yeah, he was released last summer and he's gone to Bournemouth.
They don't have they have another proven Premier League centre back that was quite old though, isn't it? Is it Kelly or something like that? I don't know.
There's Kelly. Just Tompkins, wasn't it as well?
Tompkins, yeah, that's it.
It's what I mean. They haven't really got a lot like that's why with Eze I was surprised because he's one of very few young players in the team. But let's move on to Liverpool Chelsea. Another red card in the books in this game. Reece James. I don't get what the whole faff was about. There's a lot of people saying, "Oh no, it's not a red card." The way I see it, his hand doesn't need to be there. So I feel like it's a red. I've seen worse given, so I'm not going to say maybe it was harsh because I've seen a lot worse given in terms of handballs. But what did you think of the performance? I've got Sam. While I got you, I'll go to you. What did you think of Chelsea getting a result out of this, even though that they were down to 10 men? Do you think this is a point proven?
Definitely. I think Tuchel's proven his class now as a manager and a tactician. I think it's time to put a bit of respect on him. I knew how good he was, and I thought that he came with some pedigree, but I really am impressed with him and this Chelsea's team. I think they were turning the gears just before that penalty incident and the red card. Liverpool were a bit stop-start. I think Liverpool seemed to lack that. In that game, that killer instinct. I was very impressed with the young lad. What was his name again? I've forgotten it at the top of my head. The Liverpool guy. Come on, help me out. Elliot.
Harvey Elliott. Yeah, he's I've always known he's good though because I watch Championship quite regularly and he shined in Championship. Yeah, it's quite good to see that they've kept him around because when you look at his competition, Liverpool aren't exactly lacking midfielders and certainly not wingers, which is I believe that's where he's in and out of. So fair play to him for making a point where he can. But Firmino apparently has been now injured. Chris, do you think they perhaps should have made a decision to sign someone and bring someone in? Because obviously, if you lose Firmino, I get that you can put Salah there or you can put Jota there, but there's always this risk of having one or two. And last season, especially, they saw the risk fold on them. But do you think that they should be worried if this is the case, or do you think that they can sort of nail through?
They've got the living legend that is Divock Origi still, so they're sorted.
I forgot he's still there, actually. So good on you.
Corner taken quickly and Origi, always be remembered. No, I think with Liverpool though is I think they got to a place where like Jota's really stepped up now, and they're converting him almost a winger to a sort of like centre forward role that really does look dangerous. And actually Jota had a few chances to win it, but I think with Liverpool, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes there with the finances. They've only brought in Konate, but I think with some of the injuries they had last year, with their, like I said on another pod, them returning are like new signings and everything. I think you touched on Harvey Elliott and the trust, and I think that's what I like about Liverpool and Jurgen is that trust he instills into youngsters to step up and make the difference. We've seen it with Curtis Jones. We're now seeing it with Harvey Elliott. Like the big question was Wijnaldum's left on the free. Who are you going to do? Who's going to replace him? And Liverpool made a decision that Harvey Elliott is the one to replace him. So he's featuring a lot and stepping up. I want to see a big season with Thiago. I think we didn't really see that legend passer that was Thiago last season. So, hopefully he can grow a bit more into this Liverpool team this year round. And then there's still like the likes of Oxlade-Chamberlain on the books, which, maybe doesn't feature as much as, used to, but can still potentially make an impact. But, with Liverpool, I think the biggest signing they made of the summer actually was securing Jordan Henderson's contract.
Yeah, good. Yeah, recently as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was on final day.
Yeah, so I think that's true, because I think that not just the leadership, he does so much different to what else they've got. Like Thiago, Fabinho, that I think he's cut from a different cloth to what they are. So you need to keep him, because he's hard to replace, I believe, and you don't get players like him in this day and age. Moving on to Chelsea, bit of business made on the last day. I think it's incredible just from what I know from him. Obviously, loans. We were talking of Sam with the outgoings of Arsenal and how it's a shame, but when you can bring some talent in on a loan, it's not too bad. Chris, I'm going to ask you how much you know of him, because I know he plays in the Spanish and you perhaps follow the Italian league a little bit more, but is it pronounced Saul? Is it?
Yeah, it's Saul Niguez. You got to do the th for the ez at the end.
Don't get him to do it.
Yeah,
I'm not going to try that.
So no, it's a good signing for Chelsea. Proven. So midfielder, very, very good box to box. I think there's a few interesting things around it though. So, how much of it was driven by Chelsea? Because, I know Man United and Chelsea were pursuing him throughout, but I know it was very much a push as well from Atletico Madrid, because Atletico wanted to bring Griezmann back, which, was a huge transfer that happened on transfer deadline day. And to be able to bring Griezmann back because of new La Liga regulations, they needed to shift a big wage, and Saul is on a big wage. I think he's going to earn 12 million euros post-tax at Chelsea. So it's a big contract. It was almost like this chain reaction. The thing with Chelsea is, yes, they got another midfielder, but they've got a lot of midfielders and a lot of good midfielders anyway. Jorginho, Kante, Kovacic. Adding Saul in, I just don't see if it takes them to a new level. The thing that they needed, which they didn't get, was a centre back. With Zuma going, and also, Tomori leaving to Milan on a permanent basis, and also some other youngsters as well. Gueye went to Palace. Chelsea have lost a lot of the back, and they put all their eggs in the basket on Koundé, which is quite an interesting saga in a sense of Seville didn't have to sell him. So Seville said, give us his release clause, which I think was like 75 million. And Chelsea just kept offering 55 and trying to negotiate, and Seville just said no. And I think Chelsea have almost been left a bit light at the back. So it'd be interesting to see, if injuries happen, that could be the chink in Chelsea's armour, because other than that, they do look incredible. I think Lukaku is the missing piece up top that changes the dynamic of their attack. So, and rightly proven, I think they're up there with City to be one of the favourites to win it.
Yeah, it's a good touch on the midfield as well. And then you've got Havertz and Ziyech, which were only just brought in recently. So they have got too many players there. Perhaps they needed to shift some of that and focus on the centre half. But like you say, when you put all your eggs in one basket on the final day, it's game over because you haven't really got. There isn't many centre backs out there at the moment either that you can sort of, because like we've seen, they're hard to replace when you get a good one. Look at United, 40 mil for Varane out of nowhere. I mean, no one saw that. We're spending 50 mil on Ben White, so it's reckless money. But yeah, I think they'll probably struggle if they get an injury in the back line. If not, but then again, they could just change rotation. But how's that going to work with the formation? Is it going to bring other players in? Someone's going to lose out. They can't have SAUL on the money that you mentioned and not be playing him. But then there's going to be players there that have probably signed on a deal where they're going to play more regularly. Let's move on to Burnley Leeds. Bit different to the Liverpool-Chelsea game, but I think this is sort of result I expect. Chris Wood and Bamford on the score sheet. Obviously, Bamford getting the international call up, so it was a good way to sort of start his mark. But Daniel James, we all know of him. Obviously, he's played at United, and I'm pretty sure he was at Leeds before that as well, wasn't he? Or was it Swansea? I think it was Swansea.
Swansea. Leeds wanted him. United wanted him. He went to United, so Leeds have now got him finally at last after a couple of years spell.
Didn't he have like a He was literally almost signed and stuff. He had the medical. He had pictures and all that.
Basically, I think Man United swooped in with a bigger offer and literally nicked him from underneath Leeds' eyes. But they got him at last.
Yeah,
good move for him though, isn't it? Because he's not going to get game time at United now. As much as he wasn't bad in pre-season and at the beginning, like I saw, but I think with Greenwood and people like Rashford when he returns and Martial, even though he's playing horrific, he's gonna be sort of at the bottom of the pile. And now obviously Ronaldo coming in, what we're going to touch on in a second. Do you think he could perhaps be what Leeds have been missing? Obviously, they've got Rafinha as well and Bamford that we just touched on. But Chris, what difference do you think he can make to the squad?
I think Dan James's best attribute is his pace, and he's got legs. I think he's very good at that transitional play, which I know Bielsa's probably good. He likes to get out of his Leeds team anyways. That ability, which is very prolific in modern football at the moment, to be able to shift that ball from your penalty area to the opposition penalty area in as few passes and as few moves as possible. And I think Dan James, on that right wing gives you that sort of option. It'd be interesting to see how, as you touched on, Rafinha is there, and Rafinha is a great player. So it'll be interesting to see how Bielsa is going to kind of use them both together and how they kind of line up, or is it either or, which it makes it quite an interesting move because from a Leeds perspective, spending 30 million on a player, you would expect to start.
Yeah. Yeah, very good point. Yeah, they're not in a position really to spend that money and not play him either. But let's move on because we've still got Tottenham and United to talk on. Sam, this is an interesting one. 1-0 Watford. Obviously, in terms of their business, Emerson, I was gutted when I saw this coming through. Completely gutted because I know that I wanted him at Arsenal. We've been crying out for a right flank. We touched on Tomiyasu, who's very, very sort of, okay, he looks promising. But Emerson's there. He's ready. He's not even been at Barcelona long. But what was your take on it? And then I'll get Chris's perspective.
I think I agree with you there. I think everyone as well was thinking, why not go in for someone like that? Again, he looks a signing, doesn't he? Let's be real. I mean, that's a big statement as well from Spurs, as much as we bantered them off and everything like that. And again, the likes of them keeping Kane as well is absolutely massive. But again, and this is the thing as well. Kane's only just starting to come back into the squad. They haven't looked like they missed him realistically, have they? Which is, I know it's early days and stuff like that, and you're always going to have a player that who scores you those goals like Kane is going to walk straight back into the team. Watford probably, weren't expecting to probably get anything out of that game. Let's be real. So.
Yeah, it was quite a reckless game. I think there was about 7 cards given. I was saying to my friend just last week, I missed the games where it was a free for all, yellow card after yellow card, because I think the rules have changed, which we searched up on last season, didn't we? Where the yellow card is usually only given if the play is stopped, and if they don't go back anymore after an advantage. But yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I was watching it just before the United game, and I loved seeing so much grit and stuff back in there. But yeah, I agree. I think their business has actually been perhaps one of the best. Considering in the Premier League, considering they've kept Kane, and now they've sorted the right back problem. They've got rid of Aurier.
Would you have him?
No, I was just about to ask you that. Absolutely not. No, in no way, shape, or form. Anyone that wants him, is clearly just enjoying the fact that we keep signing these has-beens, these rival rejects. I don't want another Willian on our hands. I don't want another, we do it too often. We sign from our rivals, and they paid £23 million for Aurier. Let's get that right, yeah? And they've just let him, they've torn up the contract and just let him go. So for me, that says it all. And if we're going to talk about Xhaka and his errors, I love to know what the fans would think if he came into the team. But Chris, I'll go to you, mate.
I think Emerson's a fantastic signing, 22-year-old. I think for some stuff I've been reading, it was a hard decision for him to make. Didn't want to leave Barcelona, but the financial situation at Barcelona meant he was one of the unfortunate ones that had to go. But I think, from a Tottenham perspective, you touched on there, was it 3-1-0 wins, 9 points, no goals conceded. Harry Kane hasn't really, isn't firing, the engine isn't roaring yet. When it does, it becomes quite brutal up top. I think, they haven't really fully integrated their new defence in. The likes of Christian Romero hasn't been fully integrated, and yet they've kept 3 clean sheets. And that one of those clean sheets was against Man City. So it's Tottenham could be, I want to say almost like a dark horse in the sense of, if Nuno gets some like a machine, like grinding out results, grinding out performances, they could be quite a tricky team. I think. I think one you touched on, the Arsenal signing, players from other teams that have been released and everything. What do you guys make of Didier Drogba's comments? Would you think that was in jest, or do you think there was a bit of he went too far?
I think he's just going too far. I mean, the fact that Chelsea can say it though, because Chelsea have actually worked beneficially out of getting people from us, and he just knows that it's not gone the other way. And with what's just happened with Willian, it's like, we're giving him something to work with. But
Drogba talks a lot for someone who got outscored in Premier League by fucking Darren Bent.
Yeah, I'm not going to bite to it, but I think he was a bit too reckless there. But he's speaking volumes, and he's probably speaking what every other Chelsea player thinks, because they probably do look at us in a way and think, oh, we'll just chuck him to Arsenal. We'll be at Arsenal in 2 weeks. Aurier only left 3 days ago, and there's already speculation that he's linked with us. That says it all. Like, just because he's torn his contract, he'll probably be Arsenal. We've just signed the right.
Just always seems to be us, doesn't it?
We've just signed the right back. Why do we need him? We've just signed one. We've got Cedric, who just scored 2 goals in a behind the closed doors friendly. We've got Chambers. Bellerin's going to be back on loan. We've got Maitland-Niles. Obviously, all the saga that happened there. So for me, we don't even need him. I don't want him. We don't need him. But yeah, in terms of Drogba, good, fair play to him for saying what everyone else thinks, because I do believe that we are known as that club now, but perhaps a little too harsh.
Bit of banter in it.
Yeah, just a bit. Moving on to United, last but not least. I watched this game and I was very, very shaken by the result. 1-0 to United, but Wolves bossed it. Chris, did you get a chance to watch?
No, I didn't watch. All I saw was the controversial decision.
Yeah, just a bit. I feel like it's never going to end, though. There's always going to be something to talk about in these games. I think the problem with this game, especially, though, was Traore, who was linked with Tottenham, who we were just talking about. Rumour had it that I think they put a bid in for 33 mil that was rejected. But the problem with him, he has everything but the final product. And I feel like that's maybe one thing that Tottenham have, are going to be happy that, they've had a lucky escape, because they've got so many wingers there anyway. Bergwijn's starting to shine. I feel like Traore is going to come in and they'll just notice that straight away. He can't do the end thing. He's got the zig, not the zag, But I don't know. I feel like Wolves are hard done by. United. Greenwood on the score sheet again. What did you make of him not being brought up? Obviously, we touched on England earlier, Chris. What did you make of him not being selected? And I know you wanted to touch on this as well, which I forgot to sort of bring up, but about fact of...
Yeah, I think, it's Southgate's in this very, very hard place at the moment, which is, because of the delay to Euros by a year, we're at this weird situation now. And because of the Winter World Cup, where we've got 15 months till the next major tournament. And, it's only a handful, maybe just slightly over, of international breaks to go. Is this very much a case of Southgate refining the squad as he got now, or, having a little think about how he introduced players? Like, introducing Bamford, I think towards the end of last season, Bamford, you could say merited it. But right now, Greenwood's having a fantastic start to the season for United, and it pains me to say that, given how much I'm not really much of a Man United fan, but you can't just love the kid. I think he's a natural finisher. I think he's probably one of the best finishers in that United team. The way the goal happened was quite fortunate, but do you know what? When you're a striker, you got to take these chances.
And he's certainly taken him, scoring in almost every game. So I was a bit baffled, but like, how can the thing about Bamford as well, take one but not the other? It just doesn't make sense to me.
You're going to touch on before you move on to that at the bottom. If the controversial fucking Pogba tackle. Do you not think?
I don't like the comparison with the Xhaka one, because I feel like there is no comparison in those tackles. I feel like if people are going to do that, there's no debate, because it's completely different kettle of fish, But
there's malice in it, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think it opens another debate in the sense of, as it said afterwards, of the pundits were saying Ruben Neves has to go down. Why, we talk about as people like, he's gone down way too easily. Well, if he doesn't go down too easily, then he doesn't get a free kick. So it's all well and good, pundits come out and say, "What's he meant to do?
Just stand there?"
That's the thing. Like, it's like pundits come out and say, "He's gone down a bit too easy there to win the penalty. He's gone down too easy there to win a free kick." And then when a challenge like Pogba's, where he's gone in with his studs, clipped Neves' shin, wasn't firm contact, but he still clipped him, and Neves has limped on, but then gone down when he's looked at the referee. It's like, he should have gone down. Well, it's just we're in this weird catch-22 in football at the moment, where it's just like you don't know what you expect of players in these sort of scenarios.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I just hate that people always go back to something else and say, but that was given a red card for. Just speculate and just give your opinion on that tackle there and then, because that's when the arguments and debates start. And there's no consistency. I agree with that.
That's the problem, isn't it? You're just seeing it everywhere now.
Yeah, the way I see it, Wolves wouldn't have won that game anyway. Yeah, okay, it was leading up to a sort of, but it's happened to the best of us, and I feel, I feel like it's going to get to a point now where everyone is just going to start saying, "Look, that's a yellow, that's a red, that's a yellow. Oh, that happened 3 years ago. That happened in 2003, so that should be happening now." The game's gonna end. We've spoke about this time and time again, and there's no system that's gonna sort of work with it. Moving on to the big fish of Ronaldo to United, Chris. I'll go to you. What was your thoughts on this? Obviously, a lot of speculation around him going PSG at first, and then it was City, and then incoming United. The Glazers that were supposedly wanted out, they're not wanted out anymore. The big man's back. But yeah, what's your take on this, mate?
I'm glad you kind of touched on the timeline there, to be honest. So I think a lot's come out. So I've been trying to stay very, very much neutral and actually trying to get, think about this kind of in a sort of tactical footballing sense, really. So I think, very much you touched on the timeline there, because it is an interesting timeline. If you actually ignore all the PR lines that seem to be peddled by the mainstream sort of media and actually look at the deal as it is, that effectively, we first got the first real red flag from Ronaldo on Saturday when he refused to start for Juventus against Udinese, and basically said, I want to sort my head out. I want to, decide my future. So he starts on the bench against Udinese. He comes on against Udinese, scores what he thinks is a winner in the literally 92nd minute, but is ruled out for VAR offside. And we think, that's it, Ronaldo's back. He's in a Juventus shirt. Here we go. He's yes, the goal didn't count, but he'll be picking up the goals for Juve going forward. And then we get the news on Friday morning, isn't it, that he's basically walked into Juventus Football Club and turned around and said, "I'm off. Goodbye, everyone." And I think it's quite, the sort of the timeline from that perspective. Then he leaves Turin on his private jet, and his agent Jorge Mendes is literally ringing around to every single big club in Europe to find a new home for him. So I think you touched on the timeline there in the sense of, we all thought, here we go, Messi, Ronaldo playing together in a team at PSG. But then PSG came up quite quickly and officially to say, no, we're not interested. Then the Man City rumours started. And I think very much a sense of, we thought, here we go, it's going to go to Man City. It makes sense in a Ronaldo way, because since Messi's gone to one super club, because I think, quite frankly, with the finances that Man City and PSG have, they are almost kind of like super clubs.
Yeah.
He's going to go to the other super club, Abu Dhabi, be the talisman over there. But then, of course, from a footballing sense, you question it. Like, why does Pep want Ronaldo? Under a Pep system, Ronaldo doesn't fit Pep. Ronaldo won't press or anything like that. So you start to think, like, really, is Pep Guardiola going to sign off on this? And then, from what my understanding from all the reports I was reading, Man City pulled out, and that's when Man United stepped in to kind of take the finish lines really in the Ronaldo deal. And from a morale sense, it's going to be a big boost to the team, boost to the fans, that they're signing their legend. But I'm trying to read past the sort of glitz and glamour mainstream homecoming that's been kind of peddled by a lot of the media, and trying to think of this on a sort of footballing sense. And then from a sort of tactic perspective, I think it's going to be interesting to see how he fits.
Yes.
I don't think, United, the thing with Ronaldo, he guarantees goals. Like, I've been watching Serie A for the last few, for a long time. I've seen, Ronaldo at Juve, his stats are, even at Real Madrid, but also at Juve, are phenomenal. But the way he's kind of changed as a player now, where he plays at number 9, he has played left wing for Juve, but he almost gets to the point where late in the game, you can guarantee Ronaldo's going to pop up and score the goal. The thing with United, and it'd be interesting to see, is it works so well at Real Madrid because of the fact of who he had around him. Benzema sacrificed so much to be able to let Ronaldo play, dropping deep to receive the ball. I think, when you've got a midfield of Modric, Kroos and Casemiro behind you, it just gives you so much more security and creative freedom. Are we honestly saying that, and I think he lacked that at Juventus. They had a midfield trio of Rabiot, Bentancur, Winston McKennie for a bit, Aaron Ramsey, who's never kicked on at Juve. So they're not going to give Ronaldo one service or 2 protections. So that meant kind of
now he's got McFred.
Yeah, now he's got Fred and McTominay. He's got Pogba roaming. I'm intrigued to see how it all fits together and how it lines up. I think he will score the goals, but I think and Varane will offer that defense. So it's finding that balance. But the questions are around how much does he take away from other players. We talked about Greenwood just now, and the amounts of Greenwoods. Is Ronaldo joining actually a detriment to Greenwood and his creative freedom, because play is going to have to go for Ronaldo? Bruno Fernandes and Ronaldo, a certain mainstream media posted a picture of them two together saying, they're reunited.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, Bruno and Ronaldo did nothing together at the Euros.
Yeah, very true. Quite a disappointment in the Euros.
Yeah. So jury's out. It's going to be interesting. However, from a tactical perspective, I'm really, really intrigued to see how this all works. And Ollie is doing a good job, but Ollie managing this all together and trying to figure out the tactical nous for it, this is a headache I wouldn't even wish on Pep.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm not saying that Solskjaer is wet behind the ears, but I feel like he's taken on a lot with this signing, because, like you mentioned, it could perhaps damage the development of others. Greenwood in particular, because he plays out wide or up top. At the moment, Rashford's not available, so he's going to have to come in at some point. I can't see him being dropped, if I'm honest. I feel like Ollie and him have a relationship, and he's probably done enough now to secure that role. So it is going to be people like him, and even the younger lot, even the people we don't see in the team now that, are going to have to sacrifice themselves and realize they're not getting the game time. But for leadership, it'll be good for him. It could work two ways. Imagine like I think I read a stat the other day that Greenwood has been now coached by Solskjaer, Ronaldo, and I can't remember the other player. There was a third person, all in the space of his age, and he's like 19.
Probably Zlatan, isn't it?
No, he was there years ago. I'm gonna have to Google it. But there was three people that he had been coached by.
Cavani.
Could be, yeah, probably is him. Actually, isn't it? Yeah, it will be him. Yeah, and there you go, Cavani as well. Like, how do you work with Cavani and Ronaldo? Because a lot of speculation happened that Ronaldo coming in would mean Cavani giving way for the 7 shirt. Obviously, the 7 shirt's been given to Ronaldo anyway. Cavani is still there, but people just sort of thought there and then, oh, okay, Ronaldo's in. That means Cavani's off. Because I don't see how it works. I can't connect the dots between those two. It'll be an interesting one. I'm intrigued as much as you, Chris. But Sam,
because you play a two up top, but then can Cavani and Ronaldo play together. You know, they play. The thing is, and I was listening to a podcast the other day about it, and they talked about, you know, some of Ronaldo's biggest successes at Juve was when he was in a two up top system with Dybala playing just behind him. You know, do United have those sort of players that can do that? And does, you know, where's that leave Jadon Sancho who just splurged 75 million if that's the system they play? So it's just it's like that children's puzzle, you know, when you've got, like, you know, the different shapes and fit in the different holes, and you know, you've basically got Ronaldo's shape, and you're like, where do I put it?
Yeah, very true. Sam, just your quick take on it, mate. He's 36 was trended on Twitter the day he signed. What do you make of that? Do you think he can still succeed at a level of, perhaps, I'm not saying golden boot because he's got a lot of competition there. He's obviously only just signed. I think he's going to be fit for the Newcastle game, but obviously he's fit. But I mean, I think he'll be ready. Obviously, he's got to get and merge into the team. Do you think he's still got it at this level in the game? Can he still shine in the Premier League?
Oh, 100%. I believe he's got something to offer. I mean, I think let's be real. I don't know if it was touched on or not before I got disconnected, but he's not your average 36-year-old male athlete, is he? He's
probably fitter than a lot of them. I would argue he's probably fitter than at least 80% of that team.
Yeah.
Because he's always, like, even in summer on his Instagram, you see him constantly training, and I've never seen it like from anyone else, especially a 36-year-old. He just doesn't stop. He's a workhorse, you know. I feel like he is. I agree. I think he's still got it in him, but it just depends on the other areas, how he fits into the team, where he plays. I actually forgot about Sancho. I didn't even mention him, but because he hasn't really fit in yet. But
the way I think you've got to look at it quickly as well is that, if you know, realistically, if your team has the chance to sign Ronaldo, you know, then you do it. That's it. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
And touching on your age thing, I know it'd be interesting to see over the next few years. So, like, you know, Zlatan joined Milan. I think it was about 2019. I think it was 2020. Yeah, it was 2020. They joined January 2020, and basically, you know, there has just been a deterioration, you know, now he's knocking on 40 in regards to just his physical ability, because he's just like Ronaldo. He measures his food out, he trains hard, he looks after himself in good condition. But there comes a point when the body does start to struggle a little bit. And I'm not, you know, I don't wish, you know, I hope that Ronaldo stays fit and it is a great sensation for, you know, and, you know, for the league and everything like that. But it just adds another interesting point around the way, you know, just that development and how the system plays out. You know, Ibra's been a revelation in Serie A Milan since his return. So it'd be interesting to see, you know, just how that sort of physical body can continue going forward.
Very, very true. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Been a lot to talk about, to be honest. A lot of games. Thank God for an international break, eh? You think the international break, it goes quiet, but we've had more to talk about today than what we have ever. Good old transfer window, one that won't be beaten for many years, I'm sure. We even touched on briefly with Griezmann going out the door. Who would have thought Griezmann, Ronaldo, Messi, all jumping ship on the same summer? It's
nearly Mbappe as well went.
Nearly Mbappe as well. I'll tell you what. Talk about adding fuel to fire. But those of you that listened, make sure you smash that button. Subscribe if you're new. We're going to be back after the international break, so we'll be touching on all the games of the first weekend. Let's hope that Arsenal are out at the bottom of the table, God forbid. Let's see how all these new acquisitions fit into their team. Chris, it's been good having you on, mate. Sam, pleasure as always.
Good to see you, boys.
Yeah, thank you. We shall be back soon. Cheers, boys.
See you later.
Cheers.
Bye.